It's Friday night, everybody. You know what that means. It's Friday night. Let's have some fun. Let's get together and play a ton.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm John.
And we're
Friday Night Games.
We want to immerse you into our love of the hobby by educating and entertaining you through our board gaming adventures. Our podcast lands every Friday, and we create content for Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok.
This episode is sponsored by TabletopRenaissance.ca, located in our hometown of Windsor, Ontario, Canada. They have a web store, so you can check out TabletopRenaissance.ca if you're board gaming and tabletop miniature needs. But since this is the last game standing, we also want to talk about our other great local board game stores. We also have Brimstone Games, the CG Realm, Area Outpost 42. So they, I believe, all shipped Canada-wide. So check out their websites and get some board games to your house.
Awesome. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about Episode 4 of Friday Night Games' last space game, epic space game of all time, standing. Starting with 5 amazing content creators and 5 amazing board games that are space-themed. One game will be voted off each week until there's only one game left standing. Okay, John, so on the last show, what did we get rid of?
I think we got rid of Twilight Imperium.
Oh, man. Thankfully. I don't know. I feel like this is... I feel like we're going to get a lot of heck for this, because I think that's an unpopular opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's voted up there as one of the best games of all time, but is it the best space game of all time? I mean, that's what this is all about. Like, we are going to be like the main vote for this. Like, this is just going to be industry standard moving forward.
Right. I hope so. But also, you got to remember, this is not the worst game.
Right.
Right. Everything has a worst part of it. This is like, oh, you're not the greatest. You're not the worst. You're just in the middle. So, okay, Twilight Imperium had to go because it's the greatest. People will argue it's the greatest game.
Right.
Not me. But other people will argue that. So
That's true, yes.
Okay, so we have 3 games left, which is Eclipse, Nemesis, and Battlestar Galactica, the board game.
All solid choices. Going to be tough to move forward.
Right. So on today's show, we are joined by Chad, Adam, and Ryan of Dice and Men. Today they're going to help us vote off one of the following: Nemesis, rep by Meeple Mentor; Battlestar Galactica, rep by Of Dice and Men, which is you fine gentlemen joining us today; and finally Eclipse, repped by the Meeple Dungeon. Okay, so Chad, Adam, and Ryan, tell everyone where they could find Of Dice and Men.
Well, let me start by saying I don't think we should vote, Battlestar Galactica off, because I think it's pretty cool. I think we should just start strong with that. Let's just avoid that one and think about which of the other 2 we're going to void off.
Okay, well, I don't want to tell you that everyone else vote. No, I'm just kidding.
That's okay. You can save that till later. You can be a surprise.
I will.
Yeah. But so I'm Adam, and I think the best person who can tell you where you can find all the cool Of Dice and Men stuff is probably my man Chad McCallum, who basically runs Of Dice and Men, and we wouldn't even be here without him.
Chad, I wouldn't go that far.
Or, if you want, Chad, you could make Ryan do it, because he is the one who registered the Twitter handle.
I will mention.
No, let's pass it back to Chad.
Of Dice and Men, for the most part, we're a podcast. We've been going for about 5 years, and you can find us on all the wonderful podcasting sites. I was going to say Shopify, not Shopify. Spotify, iTunes, all those wonderful places. Just search for Of Dice and Men, and you'll find our wonderful back catalog of about 100 or so episodes. And our most active social media is Twitter, which Ryan will gladly tell you the handle to.
At _men.
Thank you, Ryan.
Underscores. That's why you don't get the computer literate person to create the Twitter handle, because they just think that lots of extra punctuation is what the cool kids are doing these days on their computer machines. So
we've paid for that every episode for the last 5 years. All thanks to Ryan.
It's memorable. Who doesn't remember all these underscores?
We've got
it is memorable.
Yeah, we have an underscore
on our Instagram. Yeah,
we do. We have to.
But do you have 5?
No.
I mean, we could.
There's a severe lack of underscores in Friday Night Games.
Right.
We actually changed it. I don't think it was Friday Night GMS originally for Twitter, at least. It was something else. It was like Friday Night Games official?
No, you can't do that long. I don't know what it was. It was like Friday Night Games or something.
Oh, Friday Night Games?
Yeah, something.
Friday Night.
Of course, if you're feeling adventurous, you could check out ofdiceandmen.ca and see, huge amounts of content that we haven't updated since 2017.
The historical archives are our attempts at having like a blog.
But it does have a link to our Twitter handle, so you don't have to remember all the underscores.
There you go.
Perfect. All right. So, how did the three of you get into content creation?
Yeah, it was interesting. So I was sitting at work, and one of my friends, Corey, has a show on our local community radio station. He just think it's like a punk metal music show. And he was like, the station's looking for content, and you guys, you know a lot about board games. You like talking about board games. You should consider, putting a talk show or something together. And then I naturally reached out to the most wordy person I know, Adam, and I knew. And I actually knew Adam through different tech events and stuff we had done in the city, and I knew he was really into board games, so I reached out to him. He suggested Ryan, and we started on the local radio station. Do you guys remember the call sign?
93.2? Dang it! I don't know.
We haven't been on the station for a while.
Okay. Did you get
CJTR 91.3 Regina?
91.3. I was so close.
what time of day was your show played at?
We had like a Sunday at 7 slot or something like that.
It was a Sunday evening, and then we got replayed during the day as filler.
But it was live Sunday. I mean, we did it
Sunday
live.
Was live.
It was awesome, and it was on the radio. It wasn't just a podcast. I mean, yeah, sure, we podcasted, but we were radio stars.
You were legit. You were like where podcasting people want to go.
Right?
That's what I kept saying.
You went backwards. How did that?
Well, we're not very good.
The
That's the
mistake
problem,
of
right?
getting a job in another city. I left it too. It's funny because we had this community radio show, and I liked it because we were reaching an audience that wouldn't normally listen to a show about board games, because you have it's community radio. We had a lot of seniors listening to us probably on our Sunday evenings and Tuesday mornings or whenever it was. But then I got a job in Saskatoon, which is about 2.5 hours away, and I actually a couple of times drove to Regina on a Sunday night to record the show, and I was like, this is stupid. Like, it's after midnight by the time I'm getting home, because then we'd go to the pub afterwards, just sort of decompress after the radio show.
Right. So then that's like 2 a.m. So now you're like super tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we only did that 2 or 3 times, and then we were
I think
like,
it was twice, right? Because I remember even
let's go
calling
on.
it before, because he's like, no, it'll be fine, and I'm like, I guarantee he does it twice, and then he's done, and it happened, whatever it was.
well, we did another show after that, because Ryan tried to call in, and I don't know if you guys have ever been in a live radio booth, but there's like 500 dials and switches and buttons and stuff, and Ryan's like phoning off on the left side, and Adam's talking all this filler nonsense while I'm fiddling with the controls trying to get him live. Yeah. And we abandoned that about 2 minutes in, and then we went online after that.
Nice.
Yeah, we have a radio station here that's like a community radio station, CJAM FM, and it airs here in Windsor and in Detroit, and they really focus on like the local music scene. So when I was in my bands, we were a big part on that station. So I kind of know where you guys are coming from with that.
It's for sure. Yeah, it was fun, but then but Ryan moved away. It's all his fault. We ended up going online, and we've been doing it online since.
Thereby left a huge hole in the culture of Regina.
Unfortunately.
Did you have any like groupies, like anyone call in and be like, "Where's that board game show that we used to listen to every Sunday?"
I don't even think our spouses listen to us. Let alone groupies.
I mean,
in Sweden, we're huge, as I recall.
In Sweden, that's true.
Right? We got
We're
lots
big
of
in
downloads.
Sweden.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Very true.
Well, by huge, I think there was a few, but it's huge to us. I was like, how many people do I know in Sweden? It was great.
We were looking at our stats on SoundCloud, and like, there's a guy that has consistently listened to every single episode we've ever released. So we had a fan overseas, which was cool.
That's awesome. You should like figure out who that is and like send them like a sticker or
Send them
something.
swag.
Yeah, shirt,
That'd be great.
cup, mug, I don't know, something.
Then we
Some
got to make a
Canadian
shirt
goodies.
and a cup and a mug. This is a great plan. Let's do this.
No, we got to send him like a bag of ketchup chips and cheesies and coffee
that's a good
crisps.
point.
Yeah, you need
Smarties.
ketchup
All
chips.
the Canadian goodies.
Any Canadian gift swag box needs ketchup chips.
Definitely.
I think all dressed. A lot of them don't know what all dressed chips are.
That's true. Yeah,
I had some all dressed chips before I got here.
I know they're delicious.
they're great.
Okay, well that's really interesting. So make sure you check out ofdysonmen.ca for their 2017 catalog and
All the
Just for the Twitter handle, and then go somewhere else.
yeah. No, but definitely check out all their stuff. It's great. Okay, so you're here to vote off a game because that's what you want to do, and you're hoping that's not Battlestar Galactica. So the 3 games left.
Better watch out for me.
Yeah, John's.
Uh-oh.
Well, no one's listened to it yet. No one's listened to the episodes yet, so they don't know that you've been gunning for it.
Oh, yeah, I've been voting Battlestar
that's a shame.
Galactica every episode, I think.
That's a shame.
Sorry, guys.
I actually defended it. I got it not voted off last week. Spoiler alert. Or, well, I guess not a spoiler alert for everybody. Spoiler alert for you.
Just us.
All right, so with those 3 games, Nemesis, Battlestar Galactica, and Eclipse, we're going to listen to everyone's answer for the question of the week, which is, what mechanic in the game blew your mind? Describe originality, describe uniqueness, and why is it the best for those mechanics? Okay, let's give it a listen. John, what mechanic blew your mind?
Okay, so the best mechanic in this game is called malfunctions. They're also distributed into the same pile with the ship components. So basically when you get one, it tells you that you have to mimic or do some sort of action that takes you out of the game without notifying the other players. So there's one time I got this airlock malfunction. The mechanic was unique because we've never really seen it before, and everyone I've played it with loves the mechanic, even though it gets really old after you play the game a million times.
Just kidding.
Basically what's going on is you get the airlock malfunction, you have to pretend like you're floating off into space, and it takes you completely out of the game, and then while other people are yelling at you, someone has a card that's able to get you back into the game, and they just got to figure that out.
Yeah, I love that mechanic. I mean, you're just kind of like doing some sort of charades or something, and people got to figure out, or like I think like one of them you have to like keep your hands on a card, and people are just like, what are you doing? And you can't even hint, right? So it's actually really funny like to like see how the team solves those issues.
Yeah.
Although once you play enough times, it kind of gets boring, because you've seen it a bunch of times.
No, the game's exciting all the time.
Oh, right. It's very original. Please do not vote it off.
Yeah.
We know it's going to win anyway.
Right.
We rigged this thing.
Don't vote on my Space team.
What game mechanic in the game blew your mind? What's original, unique? Why is it the best? We've kind of said it a little bit in the past in some of these other answers, but for me, I think what is really unique and really original is the concept of not knowing what anyone else is really going for, not knowing a lot of what's happening in the game. Everything that happens to you in this game is very emergent. Now, it's not random in the sense of like rolling dice is completely random. There is dice rolling in here, but there's also strategy, and then there's also adaptability, and you have a lot of
options.
You have
too.
a lot of options with the cards that you have, and every character is unique, which has unique cards, unique abilities, unique traits, and again, with the objectives themselves being dealt out, you have a lot of choices on how to approach the game if you want to be, you can basically sometimes choose if you're going to be mean or helpful.
Yeah.
That's a really unique experience because you never know when you play the game, based on who you're playing with, what kind of experience you're going to have.
Yeah. I think for me, like one of the more maybe unique mechanisms of the game is the card play. Everybody's going to have their own special deck of cards for their character, but some of the cards will be similar among the decks. So, repairing doors and stuff like that, you'll have a card. But the cool thing about it is, you'll get 2 actions on your turn, but you'll end up playing cards for actions. So if you want to move, you play a card, you basically discard a card to move. Or instead, you can play that card for its action.
Which has its own cost.
And sometimes the cost is free. Sometimes, if it's a really powerful card, you have to play it and another card.
Or 2 extra cards.
Or 2. And it'll limit your options for what you're doing in subsequent turns.
Right.
And in certain rooms, like especially the rooms where you're like checking the engines, or you're into the cockpit where you're checking to see what the destination is, you have to spend 2 cards to do that action. So what it could result in is that you end up passing earlier than some of the other players. And so if you do that, you're effectively out of that round. Now, you're not really waiting that long because rounds aren't that long, but you have to be careful because if other people are still playing, then they can impact you even when you're not playing. And so sometimes they'll need to sort of also watch your back, while you're kind of waiting to, to draw back up to your hand of cards and things like that. So I really like that card play mechanism a lot.
I'll also add that, as far as the end of the game, that's also very unique to this game because there's so many conditions that have to be met for each player to be able to win.
Right.
And even though there's traitorous types of things, the trader and the other player could still win simultaneously. You know, like if my goal is to be, you know, is to be the only one alive, I mean, that's that. But if you say, like he was mentioning, target player 3 has to die. Okay, well then that player died, but I'm going to win with that objective. Maybe the other players at the table had something else, so those players could still win, even though there was a traitor among us, right? And the fact that you can completely mess someone up at the very last minute.
Right.
In our example, I was fighting my way in the escape pod room, trying to get into the escape pod, which there was only one unlocked. The other one was locked. I didn't have a key or anything. And the other player had been waiting in the escape pod safely for like 3 turns.
Yep.
And every turn he was just like, maybe I'll take off this turn and just leave you.
Right.
Because there's only enough space for 2 characters in each pod. But you don't have to wait till it's full. You can just go.
Take off. Right.
And that's the kind of thing that really only this game has.
Yeah, because the tension of, if I escape now and I trust that the coordinates are right and the engines are fine, well then I'm definitely going to win. You know, at least my objective. It doesn't really matter about the other players.
Yeah.
But then in some cases, like with I had a card where at least one other player had to survive along with me. So I could have tried to take out like a bad player and still been fine as long as somebody else escaped. Yeah. And one of the things too, like the escape pods is one way, but then you can go back and try to do like cryo sleep. But the problem is if you try to initiate cryo sleep, and this was my problem, is you have to do a sound check as you're activating that equipment. And so you risk aliens showing up as you're in hyper sleep, and then they can attack you, they can end the game. I had an alien that was sort of attached to me that could have exploded, burst out of my chest at any moment.
Tense.
Which is intense, and because event cards can just come up and do that. So I had to like rush really quickly to the medical bay to like take care of that and stuff. So it really creates a creative sort of playground for you to do all these interesting things within the sort of the core guidelines or guardrails of the game itself. So for me, super cool mechanics and theme.
I totally agree with this completely, and it's just a really awesome game. And again, if you haven't played it, you need to try it. It's really awesome.
Yeah, there's nothing really else like it out there.
Hello everybody, I'm Rob.
And I'm Anna Marie.
And we are the Meeple Dungeon. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, and our own podcast on all the major podcasting sites. We're back again to talk about Eclipse. And we want to talk about what mechanism blew us away in this game.
Blew our minds.
Yeah, and there's a few of them. But we're going to start with one. What's the first one we're going to talk about, Anna Marie?
The first mechanic that blew our minds was the modular board.
Yes.
So
the modular board.
When we played this game for the first time, we had never seen a modular board before.
Nope, never.
You're taking the pieces and you're building your own board. It doesn't already exist.
There's not just a board that you play on?
You mean it's not going to be the same board you play with every time? It's going to be different every time you play?
Yeah, like what? That's a thing?
It's not a rectangle? It's made up of hexes?
They're hexes? You get to orient them in any way you want?
What? I can make wormholes?
Wormholes. And you get to choose what direction those wormholes face and limit the ways that your opponents can get onto the tile that you now own.
Oh, you need a wormhole? Oh, guess what? I'm going to block you here, and you're not going to be able to get where you need. I'm going to make you go roundabout and waste your movement.
Yeah, and not only are you placing these tiles down, you get to choose from 3 different piles of these tiles.
Do you want a pretty much guaranteed, maybe lower resource tile, or do you want to gamble like higher risk, higher reward for like possible like payload payout?
Exactly. You can cruise off into the outskirts and find some kind of quiet little planets out on the outside. But if you want to go into the middle and you want to take your chances, you can roll, or you can metaphorically roll the dice, pull one of these tiles, and have all sorts of great resources on it. But now, guess what? All of a sudden, you have to defend that tile.
Oh yeah,
and
it's ancient aliens.
Yeah, and there's ancients that might be coming too.
Yeah.
And you are public enemy number 1 now, and everyone's trying to take that tile from you. So it's really up to you on how you want to do this.
Just crazy that you can make the board how it's different every time.
Make the board how you want, and it's completely different every single time you play it.
Modular board, crazy mechanic. We've never seen it before.
Never seen it before.
So
never
cool.
seen it done as well.
Love it.
Ever since.
Still blows my mind. I love it.
Yes. Modular board. The other part that we're going to talk about is the fact that this game is made up of 2 very different things.
Yeah.
It's combining resource management, economics, pure Euro game combined with a dudes on a map, minis, battle, area control,
dice chucking,
gong show. And you combine these games into one harmonic game experience.
They work so well together.
Yes, it's incredible.
It's awesome.
There's no other game that's ever pulled this off. If you're a Euro player, you're going to love this game. If you're a minis battling area control player, you're going to love this game.
Yeah.
Because you can just do both. And it's just, they work so well together.
So well.
No game has ever done this. It's just incredible.
No, it's so neat. It's so cool having that modular board, having these two different types of games, like mechanics work together so well.
It's just not been done before.
The gameplay.
It's so unique that way. And I'm not a huge Euro gamer, but this is one of the best games I've ever played.
Totally entices you to look into more Euros.
It makes me want to play more Euros. Yeah, just like, wow, this is what a Euro can be.
Yeah.
That is incredible. I didn't think it was possible.
Gets you to dip into different types of games that maybe you wouldn't have thought you would like.
Right.
So this multi-purpose, fantastic mechanics in this game.
It's incredible. Mechanics out the wazoo in Eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
But, yes, those are the greatest mechanics that this game has to offer. And we're going to see you in the 5th and final episode.
Be ready.
Be ready. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Hey everybody, it's Royce from the Definitely a Board Game podcast. And we're here once again to extol the virtues of Twilight Imperium. A game who really doesn't need its virtues extolled because it just is the greatest game ever. But let's talk about some of the mechanisms of Twilight Imperium. Really, this is where Twilight Imperium shines. This is the point at which Twilight Imperium just says, I am awesome and you cannot argue. There are so many different mechanisms that I could have chosen because there are so many different things you can do in Twilight Imperium. But I'm really going to just narrow it down to 2. And these 2 mechanisms, I think, really exemplify what is amazing about Twilight Imperium. So first of all, let's talk about choosing of roles. Every turn, you're going to start the turn by choosing a role. Every role has a special power. Every special power will give you advantages, will let you do certain things that round, whatever it might be. And those are all incredible special powers. And there's always going to be certain special powers that you want each turn. Here's where it gets difficult. Each special power is also linked to an order of turn. So either first, last, or somewhere in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you will never be able to, for sure, or very rarely anyway, be able to get the order that you need and the special power you need to come together. Instead, what you're going to find is you have to make a decision, and you have to make the decision every single time. Do I want to go first? Do I want to go last? Do I just want to make sure I go after George? Because if George goes before me and attacks me first, what's going to happen? But George took number 5, and I really need the power of place 7. So what do? Do I go for place 7, which gives me the special power I need, and hope that George doesn't attack me? Or do I go to 4 or 3 and make sure I can go before George, but at the same time, I'm not getting that power? Oh, it's that delicious moment, that tension, that decision. So that's the first one. The second mechanism that you have to talk about when you talk about Twilight Imperium are the technology trees. Twilight Imperium does technology better than any game I've ever seen. It allows you to choose how you want to progress. It allows you to choose how you want to evolve. And so even though you already start with an asymmetrical playing powers, you are going to evolve even further. You're going to decide, well, I want this kind of ship, or I want this ability, or I want these weapons, whatever it might be. You're going to evolve to get something different. You're going to choose technology, and every time you choose a technology, it changes what options you'll have next time. Some technologies have prerequisites. Some technologies you can take just by themselves. You can mix and match technologies. There is so much that you can do here. It's amazing. It's so much fun just poring over the possible technology tree and trying to decide, how do I want my race stand up? How do I want my ship stand up? How do I want my game to play? These are the two things that just make me love this game so much. And if either of those sound fantastic to you, and they have to, because let's face it, they are definitely the most amazing part of the game, then I highly recommend that you pick up and play a game of Twilight Imperium. All right, that's it for me today. Thanks again. Vote Twilight Imperium, and I will see you again for one more of these little snippets. Thanks a lot. Have a great day, everybody.
You are listening to Of Dice and Men on Friday Night Games, talking about the best game ever in Last Game Standing. Is it Last Game?
Space Edition.
It is, yes.
Okay, good. Space Edition. And we're talking about the greatest game ever to hit the table, and also the greatest space game by that, Battlestar Galactica. And what we want to tell you about today is some of the mechanics that blew our minds. Chad, when did you started?
There are so many mechanics in this game that are just a perfect pairing with the theme of the game, but some of the ones that kind of blew my mind playing the game for the first time and every time since is the crisis mechanic. We'll start with that. So at the end of every player's turn, there's a crisis check. You flip over this card, and it tells you something terrible that's happening on board the Battlestar Galactica. Maybe you have a water shortage, or there's a riot going on in the prison section of the ship. And then all the players are asked to contribute. So everyone has skill cards. There's 5 different colors of skill cards, but there's certain colors that will help the crisis, and there's certain colors that will not help the crisis. And they have numbers 0 through 6 on them. And then everyone gets to contribute however many cards they want out of their hand. And even that is a difficult choice, because the cards are action cards as well. They're all multi-purpose cards. So if you play them for the skill check, that's great, but then you don't have the card on your turn, right? So you all kind of secretly face down, put all these cards. Once everyone's decided whether they're contributing cards or not, you shuffle them all together. You also add 2 random cards from the Destiny deck. So it still sees that little bit of variance in there, so you can't be 100% sure of who put what colors in there. You shuffle them together, you count them out, and you see if you pass the crisis check or not. And all of those little bits, like the Destiny deck, the fact that everything's shuffled together and there's certain colors that can or can't contribute, all of those things give you a lot of little opportunities as the hidden trader to influence the decision, try to sabotage things without obviously revealing, as long as you're paying attention, that you are the Cylon, right? It's one of several points in the game where it gives you that opportunity to sneak a few jabs in without having to blow your cover.
And the game itself might sow mistrust just by the Destiny deck adding negative cards, and then you're wondering who put it in. The odds of the Destiny deck getting that in there are low. So yeah,
exactly.
Very cool mechanic.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan, what's one of your favorite mechanics from the game?
Before I go on, I want to thank Adam for channeling Jack Black in School of Rock when he said blew your mind in the introduction. But the formalized betrayal in the game, I really appreciated, because even going back to a kid playing Risk, I loved betraying people. And I just, whether it was
always,
whether it was worth my time or was a smart strategy or not, I just enjoyed the betrayal. Now it's actually a strategic element of a game. There's a formalized process for conducting that betrayal. The game is encouraging you to betray people, and I absolutely love that when I played this game for the first time.
It's a mechanic, right? Like, it's something you have to do as a Cylon, or at least there's an opportune time to do it, right?
Yeah, which brings up a good point, though, that if you are playing Battlestar Galactica for the first time, and I imagine many, many, many people will run out and try to find themselves a secondhand copy because it's out of print so that they can play it after our recommendation. But if you are playing for the first time and you can't remember what that formalized process is for revealing yourself as a Cylon, just go with it. Don't ask to be seen. Hey, can I look at the rule book? Because that's a dead
kind of a giveaway.
Cylon.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
That being said, let me tell you about one of my favorite mechanics of the game is, okay, yes, it is a hidden trader game, and you don't ask for the rule book because you're pretty much showing that you're a Cylon. But when you do reveal as a Cylon, your game's not over. This is there's actually a whole little board you go to. You kind of get your guy over. You have a bunch more actions. You get dealt a super crisis, which you can play on the players that are left over when you think it's like most appropriate, when it's going to do the most damage, and you get to like have all these, like, every turn you get actions as a Cylon now, because you're not out of the game. Your game has just changed, and so it doesn't. You may want to be having a lot of fun because it definitely fits with the theme to stay hidden as a Cylon for so long. But once you're revealed, it's not so bad. It's not so bad at all. So that's a fantastic mechanic.
And piggybacking on that a little bit, so at the beginning of the game, you get a loyalty card, and that tells you whether you're a human player or a Cylon player. Of course, it's secret. You don't show anyone until you choose to reveal. But the big differentiator in this game, and why I think it's so memorable when it comes to the hidden traitor genre, is the fact that there's a mid-game sleeper agent phase. So at about the halfway point of the game, you will be dealt an additional loyalty card. So you might have been human for the first hour, but now you're not anymore, which adds so many layers to it, because now if you start the game as a human, you don't necessarily want the ship to do well because you might be a bad guy in the second half of the game. So you have to bring that into decisions, and then people you've trusted for the last hour and a half, all of a sudden you're not sure anymore, and it just throws a big wrench into, like, it's a longer game. Right when a lot of those longer games start to kind of hit that lull and that slow spot, it injects the sleeper agent phase, and everything's fresh again.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. Another mechanic that I really love is sort of like the countdown clocks in the game. And they're very unpredictable in a lot of ways because there's 4 different resource dials. There's the food, fuel, morale, and population. There's damage to the ship that can end the game, or the humans can lose if they're not able to make enough jumps, hyperspace jumps or FTL jumps in time. So there's lots of different ways that the Cylons can win. And the humans are trying to juggle all those resources that are getting more and more precarious. And like, oh my God, we have 3 morale, but we only have 2 population. We can take 2 losses to this or 1 loss to this, and it's just so tense, especially as the game gets late, because you're on the precipice of disaster in so many different areas that you're just trying to like stamp out fires. And I love that about this game.
And let me throw one more in, at least, is exactly that, what you were talking about last, the faster than light jumps, which are, as mentioned before, they add so much drama to the game because you'll be overwhelmed with bad guys. Oh, they're getting you, but you made the jump. Boom. Take all the bad guys off the board. You get a breather. You know they're coming for you, though. You know they're going to start blipping right back in right after you. But you get a little breather moment. But better than that, even, is you have so many jumps you have to get to like win the game, to escape, to, you know, get to wherever you were getting to. But whoever is the admiral has the role of admiral at the time gets to draw 2 cards, look at them both, and put one away. And you're like, what was that one? Because that person could be a Cylon. So are they slowing you down? Are they like giving up valuable resources that you could have got from these planets? What was the other one? And it just sows even more content. And it adds this like, oh, there's this one moment that is just crucial. And we just hope he's not a Cylon. And I think the jump mechanic just adds so much excitement and drama to the game. So, yeah. I think all of those are fantastic. I think clearly it is the best space game ever.
Agreed.
All right. So, yeah, I can't believe Space Team didn't make it this far, right, everyone?
Yeah, I'm a bit mind-boggled.
Can't I was like, if Rudy sprained his MCL the first time he stepped on the field, that was Space Team, I think. I wanted to cheer for Rudy, but he was gone 3 minutes into the movie, so
yeah,
right.
It took a real.
It really twist. So, like we mentioned just before, playing everyone's responses, Space Team didn't even make it past like the first 10. I don't even think we were gonna vote it. I think we were gonna vote it off actually, but you just decided that you wanted to win. But I'm like, there's no way. We should just voted our own game off first episode, because I think mostly everyone else did.
I mean, the caliber of games that Space Team is going up against, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
This is Castles of Tuscany all over again.
It really is.
But I do want to thank you for bringing that game to a wider audience and bringing attention to it, because I like seeing Tim Hutchings get some attention, and it sounds like kind of a cool game, so I'm going to be looking it out. I mean, maybe it doesn't go up against the behemoths.
Yeah.
It's great for it to get a shout out like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I backed it on Kickstarter, and since I got my copy, and the Kickstarter road for the game was extremely bumpy. There was lawyers involved and everything. It has a storied past. But since I've got it and brought it to game nights, it's been requested almost every like large gathering of people since we've had it.
And I'd like to thank you guys for, choosing a game that was so easy to vote off. So
you're welcome. You're welcome. I enjoyed it just because I recommend it to everyone as a light game.
Yeah.
All my friends who are, whenever someone's like, oh, I'm into board games, I'm like, well, I have a recommendation for you, because I know I'm not going to recommend Nemesis or Eclipse or Battlestar Galactica, because no one wants to read that much instruction booklet when they just got into board games, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to vote off a game, and me and John will start. So we changed the rules from our last season. So me and John are going to have to come up with a decision live. So this is going to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
Okay, John. So what game do you want to vote off?
I think I'm going to go with Nemesis.
Whoa, you really?
Today, yes.
Really?
Yes.
I was gonna say Battlestar Galactica, actually. Sorry, of Dyson Man. I know you're on our podcast today.
So the reason why I'm gonna let Battlestar Galactica slide for this one is I like the part of the game where like stuff happens to the ship. And like the ship gets damaged and stuff like that in an attack. I think that's a really cool thing. And like I haven't played Battlestar Galactica, but we played Unfathomable. And I really like that part of the game where like something's gonna happen to the board during the game, and you have to really try to manage that. And then once the traitor gets shout out there. When the traitor
reveals himself.
Yeah,
the traitor reveals himself, basically, which is a good mechanic because the traitor gets even more powerful.
Exactly.
When they do.
So I think that's kind of what set it apart from Nemesis. What I like about Nemesis traitor thing is that how you played it, you chose to be helpful.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, playing Nemesis just felt like I would rather watch. As much as I liked Nemesis, I feel like we didn't get to play the game as when we played it, we didn't get to play it to its full extent. And I think that's always going to be an impossible feat.
Yeah. Okay. So if you put it that way, I can agree with you. You play like one playthrough of Nemesis, you're never going to understand it to what it could be. I almost feel like you need to play it like 20, 30 times.
Yeah.
Nah, that's probably a lot. But maybe like 10 or something. Battlestar Galactica we played once, and not that it was easy enough to get, but you kind of got the flow of the game. Actually, we played it twice. But once you understand like how it flows and that, if you're the traitor, you should hold back, it kind of it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, especially when you have to try and convince other people you're not the traitor.
Yeah, I did a terrible job at that.
Oh, well, we knew right away. Me and Novi knew right away. But for Nemesis, I feel like you could be a traitor, but you can go back on it. Like you could be like, I'll help you guys fight these aliens because none of us are gonna win anyway.
Right.
So so I kind of get what you're saying, and yeah, okay, fine.
Does that interfere with this conversation at all?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I want to add just one more thing. Because I played Nemesis, and we played Nemesis, and it became very apparent that in Nemesis you can have one player like jump in an escape pod off, and then they have nothing to do, and they have to go clean the kitchen for the rest of the night because their game is over, and they just have to wait for everybody else to fight aliens and have fun.
Did that actually happen when you guys played?
The good thing is, once I was finished cleaning up the kitchen, I was able to start prepping for the next game that we're going to play after Nemesis. So it's not all bad.
Wait, hold on, Ryan. Don't you want Nemesis to be voted off? Because I'm trying to get John to vote for Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil my vote yet, but there's a third option.
Yep.
Oh, you're right. There is Twilight Imperium 2.0. You're right. There is Twilight Imperium 2.0.
Twilight, yeah, exactly. I mean, Twilight Imperium. I know it's already gone, but same problem. You can have somebody just killed off the start, and now they have to sit there for 6 hours watching everybody else play, but they're never going to win because they've just been hobbled right from the start. This doesn't happen in Battlestar Galactica, right? This doesn't happen. It's everybody gets to have fun, and they discovered you were the traitor. It doesn't matter. You go to the other board, you still start mashing stuff because everybody plays all the way to the end. Comparing it to Eclipse, let's just say, if you're a big fan of abstract Eurospace combat, maybe it's a little bit more exciting, but I think it lacks a certain, as the French say, I don't know what, but excitement,
But hold on. So everyone always comes to my house, and you're telling me that Eclipse and Nemesis, I can get out of the game easier and just go do other things? Like clean up?
Yeah, that's true. You can leave people in your house, heck, strangers, and just let them, fool around with your stuff while you go do important and exciting things.
They're not strangers. I've known these people all my lives, and I know they had robbed. And I know they had robbed me.
Know them.
I know they had
Do
robbed
you really know them?
I'd rob you.
Yeah. John's robbing me right now.
I just think
actually.
any vote against Battlestar Galactica is just ridiculous at this point.
Well, let me just put it this way. I actually am going to vote. I'm actually going to take John into consideration this time, and yes, we will vote Nemesis off. And I will say it's because exactly what you're saying, that the game, once you become the traitor in Battlestar Galactica, it becomes another game for that player, and it doesn't really ruin. Well, it makes the game a lot harder, but it doesn't change the game. The game is just ridiculously hard to begin with. I mean, Battlestar Galactica, you could be a traitor and still try and help out the people too. If you really wanted.
It's true.
It's so much more concrete of a thing, right? Like if you're the trader, like if you look at Nemesis, you have the option,
Right.
and like you said, you can be very wishy-washy with it. You can decide halfway through, like, oh, I feel bad for Adam because he's having such a hard time. Let's go help him shoot the queen in the face. But that's not the thing that you do in BSG. You are committed to your role, and it carries throughout the entire game. There's that neat little sleeper phase in the middle, which I think I mentioned is one of our favorite mechanics there.
Right. I actually really like that mechanic too. The fact that, well, I guess like I kind of like it if people don't really know at the very beginning, because you could know, you could deal out, someone could get the Cylon at the very beginning of the game, which makes it a little more secretive, right? But we actually played one where we didn't know till halfway, and I thought that was a lot of fun, because we were actually like helping each other trying to beat the aliens, and then all of a sudden, well, it was pretty obvious once John was revealed as a Cylon. I'm like, oh, I know you're the Cylon, because like Novi was actually putting in cards at one point. You're like, oh, why are you putting an extra card, John? And you're like, to help us out.
Yes.
Surprise, right? I played other trader games. I know what you're doing, but
I'm not a good liar. That's it.
Okay, we'll go with Nemesis. Let's do it.
All right.
Okay, so
success.
So that's our vote. So how about the three of you? What is your vote to kick off?
I think, like, for myself, I don't want to make it sound like it's an easy call, because Eclipse, especially if we're talking mechanically in this episode, is a very intricate, well-designed game that takes in Twilight Imperium, throws some Through the Ages in there. I really like the ship upgrades that you can do in that and make your own sort of like unique ships and go off on that, because Twilight Imperium does lack of that a little bit. I do prefer Twilight Imperium as a game. I can't look at things separately where it's like, now we're talking about theme and then now we're talking about mechanics. So I look at it as, to what degree do the mechanics service the narrative and have a symbiotic relationship with the theme? Eclipse doesn't have that. You could all play as humans that are completely indistinct from each other. But Nemesis and Battlestar Galactica, those mechanics were chosen to help service the story that you all develop as a group of players. Not quite role-playing, I don't want to take it that far, but it's sort of like a step in that direction, where at the end of it, you're kind of looking back and talking about those story beats and all the things that happen. And here you're reminiscing on what John did and how you guys discovered who the Cylon was and how. Whereas at the end of a game of Eclipse, it's like, well, let's pack that up. You got 19 points, and let's see, you got 17 points. And so it's a very well done, dry game. Whereas Nemesis and BSG are very well done thematic games, and therefore that gets my preference, even mechanically speaking.
I don't know if I add anything to that. Eclipse is just really fancy Excel spreadsheets in space. I was going to save that for On Mars, but that's not in the running anymore. But that's the next step, right? Like there are a lot of it is a super fancy Excel spreadsheet that does a lot of things great. But it's like, it just happened. Space is a backdrop. Space isn't the narrative masterpiece that it is in Nemesis, and especially Battlestar Galactica.
And just to add to the same point, it's kind of weird. Like, both games that we're talking about here are pale copies of something. So Nemesis is like a pale copy of Aliens. Like, they clearly didn't get the license. And let's face it, they made Eclipse to be like, hey, Twilight Imperium's really long. Can we make a shorter Twilight Imperium? And then they did that, right? And so
let's make a 4-hour game instead of an 8-hour game.
Yeah, it's just watered down versions of better somethings.
Wait, but what about Battlestar Galactica? Isn't that just...
Battlestar Galactica is awesome.
Wait,
it's a watered down version of the 70s show, in which case I totally 100% agree. The 70s show was way better in every step. Oh, that's just not true, and I'm sorry for saying that.
But yeah, Battlestar Galactica, to Ryan's point, really does a fantastic job, and a lot of the Fantasy Flight games are kind of around this era of their release, do amazing jobs of taking these really cool themes and then marrying mechanics to them almost perfectly. Like, the sleeper phase reveal matches up with the BSG themes so well, especially the newer show. And a lot of the things like the crisis checks and how people can contribute cards and stuff like that, it's just a perfectly executed mechanics to enhance that theme, to really make you feel like you're having that space adventure. You're in this semi-cooperative environment where you want things to succeed, but maybe not, and you can't quite trust people. It's all of that's just enforced and enhanced by the mechanics of the game.
And we're not trying to sell you on how good Battlestar Galactica are. We are trying to pick how bad either Eclipse or Nemesis
Hold on. Do the three of you work for Fantasy Flight Games? That's what I'm getting out of this.
If we're going to coast to the finals, which I'm pretty sure we're going to with BSG, I also want to point out that, because I mentioned that Nemesis is and BSG, I'm preferring both to Eclipse. But the one thing I find about when comparing Nemesis to BSG is that when we played Nemesis the other day, Adam, we were constantly opening that rule book and referring to things and having to look up what different dice face mean and what the token means when you pull it out of the bag. Okay, let's go back and refer to what this means. Even still late in the game, we were getting some rules a little bit wrong. But with BSG, it's a pretty smooth ride. It's very intuitive to play. So when you were saying earlier that that's not a game that you would bring on new players, depending on the player, if someone was sort of into the theme, I would totally bring out Battlestar Galactica with a new player.
Oh, for sure. If they're into the theme, I would totally bring it out. But I still think the learning curve is high for it.
I
would argue that
cooperative thing adds to that too, though, right? Because you can sort of cooperatively play with them, but then you also have to caveat everything with. But I could be a traitor, and you might not want to listen to me. So make sure everybody's telling you the same thing. Right?
That said, I had Battlestar Galactica at a game weekend 2 weeks ago with my fancy overpriced mat. And we had 3 new players on a 6-player game. They knew what was going on by the end of round 1. Because every single round, it's different for each player because you have different powers and stuff available to you in a different hand of cards. But every single round is movement, action, crisis. Every single round, and that structure persists throughout the entire game, even if you do end up revealing as a Cylon. So from that standpoint, I think it's a lot more approachable.
Yeah, I will say there is a lot of rules, but you're right. The flow of the game is actually pretty small. I can 100% agree with that.
All right, let me delve into the idea of which one should we vote off, because that's what we're really talking about, right? So I'm just gonna let my emotions spill out onto the microphone, and then we'll see what comes of it. But I feel like Battlestar Galactica gets it right? It's like, oh, we're trying to do this theme where it's in space and there's bad guys hunting you and you feel desperate and you're out of resources and you're trying to fight, but there's also traitors that you don't know who to trust. It just nails that all. I would even say that Nemesis does a very good job of, you're a band of strangers waking up on a ship. You don't know what to do. You're kind of like, I sort of vaguely remember we got to get to the front of the ship to make sure we're going to the right place. Somebody should check the engines out. Let's try not to get eaten by aliens while we're there. It does a really good job of that feeling. And especially with the Mr. Cooper, where somebody's got the objective to destroy the whole ship, make everyone else except you die. Okay, sure. Or make sure you come back with at least one infected person. That's just awesome. They nail that whole theme. But Eclipse is a fun little space point salad game where everything you kind of do is, this will get you some points and this will get you some points. And if you do that, that'll get you some points too. And, at some point somebody discovers, hey, if I just make a missile launching Battlestar, I can mostly kill all the easy stuff. And then somebody else has to make a missile Battlestar killer ship. And anyway, it's just kind of meh. It doesn't feel like it nailed something. It's just kind of, yeah, that's pretty good. It's got some amazing components. It's got some really cool stuff, but it just lacks. That's my feelings on the issue.
Eclipse is like, as long as you take your turn, you'll get 2 to 4 points.
Right.
That's Eclipse, right?
And it's like, it's a little math game of maximizing your points as you try and take over the galaxy, have, imperial commerce or something. It's kind of there, and yeah, it exists, but it just doesn't feel like it nails something like the other two do.
We'll say, I think the next time we play Eclipse, we're gonna be like, oh man, this game's great. Why have we haven't played this in years?
Self-defense. That's what it is.
This is Debate Club. It doesn't matter what our actual opinions are. We're going to argue to win.
Nice.
Okay, so what game it sounds like the 3 of you are voting off Eclipse. Is that
it's Eclipse?
Is that what's happening?
Eclipse gets the boot.
I think I won them over.
Well, actually,
it's my charisma that I won them over with.
There we go.
Or maybe it's my machismo.
All right, so let's tally the votes.
There we go.
You guys are voting Eclipse. 1 second, I have to go into the room. I have the secret ballots from everybody. Even John doesn't see
Before
them.
he tallies Eclipse, the smarter thing would be to go with what they went with, which was Nemesis, because that makes sure that we've got 2.
Never
mind. We're not smart players.
It's too late.
Go with our guts.
We need to game the system. That's what we should be doing.
We should have been gaming the system. We are board gamers who don't know how to game the system. What is wrong with us?
You guys have played games with me. I don't play.
That's true. You're terrible at math.
The 3 of us ever win the games we play, though. We just stray each other. And
we have a good time.
Yes.
We are the real winners.
Yeah. Yeah, we were playing last weekend, and I got the trader, and I was just terrible at it. It's like I don't know how to do this properly. I don't want to
feel
do
like
this.
Do you have a poker face? Because it's hard to play as a Cylon without a poker face. Because the first time someone asks you, "Are you a Cylon?" and that little crinkle at the side of the because that happens to me. So when I play games like the Resistance or Battlestar Galactica or all those types of games, I always try to put myself in the mindset of the traitor, whether I'm the traitor or not. Try and make it because I can't fake when I'm a traitor that I'm not a traitor, but when I'm not a traitor, I can kind of fake being a traitor.
Yeah.
So
You really can't do that either, actually.
it's the meta. Like if we play the game 1,000 times, I'll win more than half using.
We literally played once. We were playing, the whatever that game is, the pure
The
one.
Resistance?
The Resistance, and somebody turned to you and said, "Are you a traitor?" And you were like, "Yeah, I am." Just like, well, don't even say it like that.
Don't
You
even
could've just
try.
went, "Yes, I am," but no, you had to do this like, "Yeah, I am." Like, oh yeah, he really is. He just gave up.
No, I was about to come up with a lie, and then I realized as I was opening my mouth, I've got nothing. And so if I have nothing to say, then obviously I am anyway. So at that point, I'm just gonna.
You're the worst. You're the worst human being I know.
Just trying to say that. Thank you for confirming it.
Okay. All right. So I went and got the votes. Everyone ready to continue?
We're good.
Yes.
We're good.
Okay,
Ready.
here we go. Okay, so I tallied up the votes, and so Friday Night Games, me and John voted we voted against Nemesis. Of Dice and Men, you three voted against Eclipse. Meeple Dungeon voted against Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, Meeple Dungeon, come on!
I'm gonna have a word with those guys.
Definitely Another Board Game Podcast wanted to vote off Nemesis. So there you go. There's 2 for Nemesis, 1 for Battlestar Galactica. And then Meeple Mentor voted for Battlestar Galactica.
What? I didn't revote
tied.
Nemesis, Adam. You were right.
We really should have.
No
Who are those
strategy at all.
people anyway?
So there's
Why
a
don't- why don't
tie.
they have taste?
So there's a tie right now. So right now, Nemesis and Battlestar Galactica are tied with votes. So that means that according to our rules that we made, we had to consult the fans. So the fans actually did a poll, and now they decided what will be voted off. So thank you, listeners, and anyone who contributed to that. I hope you're listening to this show. And we're kicking off. I'm sorry, guys. Battlestar Galactica's gone.
Oh no! Terrible.
And you did a very good job of selling it a minute ago too. So I feel really bad. But
I'm
Everyone's gonna
find
listen.
each and every one of you, and I will hunt you down. I have a very particular set of skills.
See, I was against Battlestar Galactica. I know you guys haven't heard the episodes yet, but because I was harping on that Fantasy Flight lost the license, and they had to reskin the game. That was my thing. But this one, this episode, I was like, yeah, this is actually like the better game for me in the long run.
you three convinced John that this game is amazing.
Yeah, right.
And now it gets voted
Because
off.
it is. Everyone's gonna listen to this and they're gonna say, "Oh man, we messed up big."
Yeah,
We should've,
I hope so. The listeners made that decision. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we
it's their fault.
I
not
did
mine.
I did an Instagram post to decide the tiebreaker.
If other podcasts want to strategically vote against us because we're the strongest team, that's fine. That's
Right.
I think it's something.
That's
But
a
when
smart
the
play,
listeners
smart
don't
play.
agree with us, oh my god!
Adam is gonna find all 5 of you and to a lesson.
That's
Yeah.
accurate. That's
all
accurate.
3 of them.
Even
all
you,
3 of them.
student person.
Which is probably like John. It's just John hitting the button.
I didn't vote for a single thing. That sucks.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to say this. It was hard for me to keep a straight face the whole time because obviously Twilight Imperium is the superior game and is definitely I can't say I put my whole heart into this Battlestar Galactica thing anyway because Twilight Imperium.
We
Sour grapes, Adam. Sour grapes.
we had a bit of a debate when we were picking a game for this. We were actually originally going to go with Space Alert, which is another fantastic space game. And TI was out of the running because I don't like it.
Okay.
And we wanted to get consent. But Adam and Ryan are 100% on Team TI.
Yeah, fair.
Are you, Ryan? I know I am.
Okay.
Wow.
Greatest
All
game
right.
ever made.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I agree.
There you go.
Lord.
Yeah, I don't agree, but
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, TI is like the game that everyone is going to say if you're going to play a space game, play that because it's everything, right? So, but it doesn't fit the last game standing because it's just like Canada Reads. It may be the best game ever, but there's flaws to it. There's other games that do better things in certain categories, and eventually one doesn't get voted off.
There you go.
So you're the
That's
best of the
true.
Fair
rest.
enough.
All right, so I guess Battlestar Galactica was eliminated. I'm sorry. Thanks for being on our
guess
show.
that really powers the rest of the conversation.
Now you
doesn't it?
expect us to stay around and talk
Right?
about something else after breaking our hearts?
We'll just talk about, I don't know, our feelings or something.
Okay, we can do that. All right, so right now you could stick around and listen to us talk to Of Dice and Men about a random topic that I don't even know what we're going to talk about, so it'll be pretty fun. Or you could tune in next week where we decide the winner or the not the worst game between Eclipse and Nemesis.
I'm just going to put this out there. You could stick around, listen, and wait till next week and find out who the winner is. You don't have to choose.
It's one or
He's
the
making
other.
you
No,
choose.
choose.
It's not a choice.
That's what
Man,
I
if
do.
Nemesis doesn't win, I'm going to be upset. Eclipse is a good game, but it's not. It's not.
There were 2 votes against Nemesis already.
I know, but when it comes down to the, yeah.
Actually, I
one
love
of them
both
was you
games,
guys.
so
No,
I'll be
one
happy
of
with
them.
whichever
No, one of them was
wins.
us. Sorry, one of them was us. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
So everybody still able to make sway is voting against Nemesis. This is not good.
Look, I must say that
Eclipse is a fan.
the last episode always has the funniest clips of everybody because they're always trash talking everyone's game. So I think it'll be real fun to sway anyone on that last episode.
It'll be good.
And also if you listen to it, you will hear everyone talk about every game, and everyone's probably gonna be mentioning On Mars, which is not in there. So hopefully we trash talk that game too.
Kevin should just edit and be like, Space Team.
Oh, good call. Yeah, Kevin. Keep this conversation in this podcast, but definitely put that in next podcast. So if you stuck around, you're going to be excited to hear Kevin say Space Team.
There you go.
Nice.
All right. So
Let's do it. What was the topic you guys wanted to chat about?
So something I wanted to bring up, because both Adam and Ryan and myself have done it recently, is just board game weekends. Adam does a big one every year to celebrate his birth. I did one recently just because it's
survival, to be more specific.
continued survival.
The fact that he's still alive is
Every
like that.
revolution around the sun is a miracle.
Continued survival. I like that.
I always say thank your mom day, because your mom really had to put up with you for 9 months of you bursting through.
Beating away at the uterus wall trying to get out. Yeah.
Right.
he's been putting up with you for 45 years. Not the uterine wall thing, but like the.
That was probably the easy part
for
with
that,
Adam.
though.
My mom's drugs wore off, so I was a pain in the ass from day one.
Oh, that's rough. But yeah, and I got a chance to do one with my friends the weekend before. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make Adam's because family obligations. But yeah, just board game. Have you guys kind of made yourselves unavailable to the rest of life for 24 to 48 hours just so you could game?
I have a pretty good story. So for the last 2 years, I've been trying. I'm going to put trying in there and emphasize that, to host what I like to call MatCon, which is on also my day of survival, birthing survival. I tried to do the exact same thing. I lined up a bunch of games. I told everyone to come, and I'm like, hey, show up. But unfortunately, no one cares enough to show up to my birthday. So everyone just wants to do what they want to do. So they show up at whatever times they want, and they leave. And the con never really happens. So we play one game. We usually play one game every year, but we never gotten through what I wanted to do in like a full set.
Yeah, I liked when we were doing D&D or we were playing Pathfinder or whatever, but then we switched it up one day to play Firefly, and that ended up being kind of like an all-day event. So that's kind of the most I think we've done as a group, is like a one day, not a full weekend.
Yeah, I think the trick is, and the reason why it's been so successful for the ones I've organized in the past, is you have to leave. You can't do it at your house or where you're like accessible to people that might bother you, or where it's convenient for people to come and go. So my friends don't realize this, but I find a remote cabin like hours away to make sure that I can't escape playing my board game collection. I think it helps quite a bit, though.
Is this really playing board games, or is there one person who doesn't make it out alive?
Misery-esque kind of thing. You hobble
Surviving
them, you
the
keep them
game.
there.
If you break their ankles, they can't leave.
Yeah.
You can have your MatCon for as long as you want.
Oh,
Yeah.
good call, Ryan. I'm gonna try that next time.
Yeah.
And don't feed them unless they try and do well, so that they actually really try.
Right.
And that's what we did when we would play Pathfinder. We would go to the States where our friend lived, and he would host it at his house.
And that was almost an all-day thing. It started at like 4, and it would go to 1 in the morning. So it was quite a long time.
Tell about super fun weekend and how like long of a stretch of time this is that we dedicate to that once a year.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, I've always found that one day is just not enough. Like, one day basically gets you, like, a good game of Twilight Imperium and maybe one other game sometimes. And because Twilight Imperium's great, we want to play it every year. So we've been trying to stretch these out. And, like, on my 40th birthday, I think it was, we did, like, 3 full days and, like, a tiny little bit of Sunday, too. And I think lately we've been trying to go for that 3-day thing. So we'll take Fridays off and we'll, try and get together Thursday night and, like, just go to a pub so we can get all that, like, socializing out of the way so that we can start, like, Friday morning right in with some board gaming. You know what I mean? Like, we just get right in there. And then we just do, like, Friday and Saturday. And, sometimes we do a little Sunday, too, which is great. And then I think the real key is to not schedule. See, and people think, oh, no, schedule is a good idea. Scheduling never works on these things. It's like, okay, well, at 10 o'clock, we'll have these people come over and then we'll start an 8-player game. But, then we've got this 6-player and we'll try and break it into a 4-player. No, don't do any of that. Just invite, like, a good amount, like 5 or 6 people and people who will show, by the way, right. If if you don't have good friends, that's sad. But people who will show and just play with them and play, like, good games, good long games until they're done, and then play something else. And if you need, I brought, like, the Oculus Quest, like, hey, one person has to sit out for a while or they have to do the dishes like Ryan did or something. They've got something to do while they wait for the rest of the game. But otherwise, everyone's just focused on this game one at a time until it's done, then pick up the next game and play. Yeah. Honestly, I think that's better than trying to schedule.
I don't think you have to schedule the games, but I think you do have to make it so it's not just a drop in and drop out too much. And that's, like, Chad's advice of renting a cabin and making people go out into the woods with you is a little strange, because what we would do is just go to Adam's, who lived in another city, because Adam would get a lot of his childhood friends from Saskatoon and me to go from Saskatoon to Regina, and we would end up it would be like adult boy slumber party weekend kind of thing where we would all crash.
It sounds sexier when you say that, but no, it wasn't adult boy slumber party. It was just,
it's more like drunken,
just a bunch of guys
drunken board game playing. That's the real.
Yeah. That's closer to
that's
it.
What I say. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, but Matt and I have actually talked about it recently, of trying to organize a board game weekend where we actually, I think Twilight Imperium was kind of like the game, because him and I haven't played it, so it's kind of one of those weekends where we want to do that and actually just play that game to its full extent.
But I really like the tips. I kind of like, Adam, you're saying, hey, everyone go have a social night on the first day. I think that's a great idea. And then the next morning you just start it. I think that's like a great idea.
Because people, they want to, you haven't seen each other for a long time. You want to chat. You want to do stuff. Get that out of the way so that we can focus on more.
You know what? I actually think that's why MatCon failed, because they're coming to visit me for my birthday. I mean, I may not have seen them in a long time, and I'm like, okay, can you just sit down and play this game? I'm like going crazy, but really they're there for me. That's nice of them.
They should do what you want to do, though.
Like, if they were really there for you, they'd be willing to sit down and.
For sure. Chad has board game birthdays, and I went to one of them, and it was a lot of people, but it was like we had to basically resort to party games, because there's a lot of people who don't normally play games too, a lot of people who just significant others of other people that they brought, kind of thing, and so it's just not the same. It's just not the same as a dedicated This is a board game weekend. And Twilight Imperium, like you said, you got to plan a day for it. You can't just be like, hey, you guys want to come over after work and play Twilight Imperium? No, it's got to be a whole day.
I will admit, like, MatCon does end lightly at night. We usually end up playing Werewolf. So, like, dinner, we figure out dinner, and then Werewolf happens later on. So people aren't, it's more of a social aspect at night. But something did pop up in my head. I would actually recommend going to a convention, because you lose all the distractions. When I went to Gen Con, and this is like 2 years ago now, 2019, we went and they had like a board game library. We were able to sit there for 5 hours actually playing through 2 games. Played Catan Game of Thrones edition, which we wouldn't buy because everyone owns Catan, but the Game of Thrones edition was awesome. And we played Jurassic Park, and it was just like, that was our favorite moment, because we just kind of like blocked everything out. We were there and we had fun playing that. Unfortunately, conventions ended at the end of 2019. So
it's a little bit harder to get to those nowadays.
Right.
You live in Ontario. You're in like a hub of social activity and commercial different enterprises. We live in Saskatchewan, and you got to travel like 13 hours in any direction to find a convention, probably. So.
Adam's birthday is the convention. That's like the biggest board game event that happens here, basically.
But we did do, like, before this whole global pandemic thing happened, we did do a 24-hour charity board gaming event, which is great because you try and play for 24-hour marathon straight. And we would always, actually we do this all the time, we'd always overestimate how much we can play. We'd be like, oh, we'll play this game and this game and this game, and you get like 6 games in maybe.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as long. 24 hours isn't nearly as long as you think it is, especially when you get really tired at the end. We do that same thing with like Super Fun Weekend. We bring like 20 games and play 5 of them. So
I think that speaks to what you said about scheduling, though, because if you go into one of those things, unless you're doing a specific day, like a TI day, a Twilight Imperium day, or I have a friend that's been wanting to play Advanced Civilization for years. It's the old 1980s game. He has a lot of fond memories of it, but you have to set aside 8 hours. So either you're doing that is the event, or you don't make a schedule. Because I've done these in the past with people where like, I really want to get Battlestar Galactica to the table, and it doesn't happen. We still have fun, but it's always like at the back of my mind thinking, oh, I really want to table this, but no one wants to play it. But I really want to focus on this. And you kind of get distracted and a little disheartened if you're not getting your favorite game to the table. But it's better to go into those things just saying, you know what, I'm going to bring a stack of games. Whatever people want to grab off the table is fine.
Yeah, what's been good with our game nights, Matt and I have decided that we're just going to really focus on playing games multiple times before we move on to another one. So, we've been playing, Unfathomable,
which is Battlestar
Galactica, past like month, and Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. So it's been really fun to get through those games that, when we were playing a different game every week, we would play a game, we really like it, but then we never play it again.
Yeah, I have a ton of games I love, but we'll never get them out again.
Yeah.
Like Root, like we played, I loved it, but we only like as a group we played it once. I played a ton solo, but I would love to play that actually like a couple months straight. You know, let's do it.
Yeah, and that's a good one to play many, many times with the same people again.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's one of the curses of content creation too, though, right? Like we always want to talk about some of the newer games and whatnot, so we're a little bit more incentivized to get those to the table and play them.
Some of us want to talk about Last Night on Earth again and again and again.
Unless you're Adam and you're stuck in the early 2000s as far as game releases go. But yeah,
Adam is on a podcast due to enthusiasm more than experience because he never gets to play games because he's so busy, but he just loves thinking back to those days 10 years ago when he was playing. So a few dated references sometimes on our podcast.
A few dated references and TI4. That's me in a nutshell.
Basically, it's that like 1 or 2 episodes after your birthday every year where you really get to shine because you've actually tabled
something. Talking about all these games I played.
And the funny thing is, so we just had Adam's Super Fun Weekend this past weekend.
Oh,
and
happy birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Hey, thanks. It was actually like a long time ago, but thanks.
You're welcome.
It worked out that we could have the weekend, but we were going to play Battlestar Galactica. That was the plan. We ended up playing Nemesis and Twilight Imperium 4 instead.
I did not want to bring that up during the show.
Well, but we're gone now. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing matters anymore.
That's hilarious. Which one did you like better? You could say it now.
Like better between Twilight Imperium and Nemesis?
Yeah.
Well, Twilight Imperium, like, not to be coy, Twilight Imperium 4 is the best board game ever created. Like, the only downside to it is that it's hard to get to the table because it takes so long, and it's such a big game that you can't really like introduce non-gamers to it. They're like, what? Like, there's just so much going on. But it is just the best. There's just nothing better than Twilight Imperium 4.
I would argue that comparison's a little.
I know you would.
Apple and oranges.
I can see whose favorite is whose right now. Meanwhile, Ryan's just like, yeah, I love getting out early on both games. I could go clean the house.
But Nemesis was such a great moment when I did have to go clean the house because I was the example that went to the escape pod because my goal was to take an infected egg back to Earth, or back to Earth. I just needed an infected egg researched. And so an escape pod, someone had already randomly activated one for no reason earlier in the game. Someone else is about to go research this egg. So I was just like, all right, I'm just going to kind of casually make my way to the escape pods. And then I disabled the ability to activate or not deactivate them, and then put doors all around the space. So I just sort of casually got on the escape pod while everyone was else on this side. But then after that, you're right, Adam. I was just like, oh, but now I got to watch for 2.5 hours. That was should have stuck around just for that reason.
Yeah, it's a little bit harsh, but I'm sure Ryan was like, oh, there's a way to end this game early. Okay, I'll go do that.
I'm just lucky I was in my own house because then I could go clean the kitchen or something like that. Like if we were playing at your house, Adam, I would have just been, I guess, on your Oculus, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what happened when we played Firefly.
Right.
Because we played Firefly with every single expansion, and there was like
10 people.
10 people playing the game, so it was like an
that's
hour between turns.
It was a bad idea.
Yeah. So the Oculus got played a lot that night.
Yeah, I think that got played more than the actual board game. I think people just gave up.
Yeah.
They enjoyed the pizza. Like maybe everyone's turn was like 20 minutes, and then they're just like, okay, after like 2 rounds, no one wanted to play it ever again.
Yeah.
Must have had like a lineup of 5 people waiting to look at the cards in the stores when they were buying.
Well, I think that's what took the longest part is that people were just doing other things, and they come down and like, okay, I got to look at what I need to do. And I was the rules guy, so I literally have to sit there and like tell them what they do every single round, and it just was not fun for me. It was not fun for them.
We learned from our mistake.
Yeah,
we just never played Firefly.
We were noobs. We were beginners.
Very good.
You
know? 2 or 3 player game. I played 2 or 3 players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it shines at 2 or 3 players, but don't do 9.
One thing we didn't talk about is like it's actually nice to break up the long like super games like Twilight Imperium and the Nemesis that take hours and hours with like break it up with like some short 10-minute games or whatever in between.
Team.
You know, like
break it up with Space Team.
Space Alert is another great one.
That's why Space Team's the best game because you can break up all the other games with it. You know.
We did exactly that at the weekend I was at, where we played Puerto Rico, and then we play We're Doomed for 2 or 3 10-minute rounds of that, and then we go into Power Grid, and then we played a quick card game after that, or one of the Unlocked or something like that. But yeah, getting that alternate in there, and it's also really nice, especially if more than one group playing. Getting those small games in so people can sync up again if people want to play different games. And
it becomes super important if you have more than one group playing.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, Adam. We didn't do that.
Well, we didn't do that, but
yeah,
we did. We've done that other super fun weekends, and we did that at King Con all the time, right?
We just played because the shortest game we played. I'm looking at the games that we played was Mind Management.
Well, we only played 4 games this last super fun weekend
because all of them were 8-hour games.
Good long games, just the way I liked it. But
hey, Mind Management's a great game.
Yeah,
it is.
It's a pretty cool game. I really liked it. I thought it was a neat little puzzle, but it didn't excite me. This is another one where it didn't grab me with that emotional attachment like Letters from Whitechapel does. Like I get tense when I'm like trying to run away from the police in Letters from Whitechapel, or even like Fury of Dracula. We always bring up is like another one where it's like, it's kind of scary and exciting. But Mind Management was like, this is a very interesting little puzzle, but I'm not excited. But it is a good puzzle.
Well, you have to keep opening up the other puzzles, right, to make it more exciting, I guess. So it makes sense.
You haven't done that. Yeah, we've kept. I think we've played it 4 or 5 times with our friend's copy, and I think maybe this last time he opened up a packet.
Okay.
So I don't really know what's in that folio in terms of all the different things you can open up to rebalance the game if one side has been winning.
Yeah, it gets really cool, and then they put a lot of like Easter eggs into it too, which is really neat. So if you're a big fan of the comics, which John is, that's actually the reason why John bought it. Like went all out on it too. Then it's even more exciting. So I guess if you have that attachment, it's where it becomes the game really shines.
Yeah.
I think you might be right, because one of the things I was saying while playing it was I wish I had more context, because I have never read any of the comic books, and I had no context. And I think if I did, it would be maybe a little more gripping.
I felt like you, Adam, because it wasn't like as gripping to me, but John was all into it. He's like, he opens it up, he starts looking underneath everything and like studying the back of the box. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, there's secrets in here, Matt. I'm like, sure, dude. Sure there is.
Well, the presentation of that game is so great. And when I had first played it, I was taking some pictures on Twitter and tagged some of the designers, and they were saying how none of it is recycled art. Like you've seen a lot of games based on IPs and stuff. Like every drawing and everything in that game is net new content from that graphic artist, which is amazing. Yeah. And then even the little boxes that have their own little comics in them, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Lots of neat things going on there.
Yeah, I think my favorite Easter egg in that game is when you flip it over, the board over, it's like a comic book.
Spoiler alert. I'm kidding.
And then when you flip over the hidden board, on the back of that is also a comic book, but you put that on top of the comic book on the back, and it changes the ending of the 4 comics on the board. Yeah, because you're playing the eraser, right? And then the eraser erases the ending on the comic on the back, and it changes the ending. It's awesome.
I just want to say I didn't even know there was comics on the back of those boards. And I definitely took photos of everything. So
so I think that's my favorite Easter egg.
Wow.
Yeah. Mind Management.
It's a great game.
Mind Management.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. We really appreciate it and putting the work in to make this Last Game Standing happen. So we appreciate it.
For sure.
Thanks for having us on and dashing our dreams. It was
yeah, it was good. It was good to do it live so you could see the pain in our face.
Right.
Awesome. Well, if you can let everyone know where to find you again, that'd be awesome.
Ryan?
You can find us on Twitter at _dice_and_men. And where else, Chad?
That's our most active thing. We also have podcasts. You can just search Of Dice and Men on your favorite podcatcher, and you'll likely find us there.
Or at 91.3. No, I'm just kidding.
that was a while ago. They might still be playing our episodes. So you never know.
That desperate for content.
Right.
All right. If you like what you hear, don't forget to follow us on your favorite streaming platform or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can check us out on Instagram at FridayNightGame_official, Twitter at FridayNightGMS, TikTok at Friday Night Games, and as always, our website at FridayNight.games. Again, I'm John.
I'm Matt.
It's Friday night, so let's have some fun.
Thanks, everyone.